For spine-chilling true Uber horror stories exposed, haunting encounters with the sinister unknown, the chill in the air prickled Sarah's skin like icy fingers as she tapped her phone, waiting for the Uber app to light up. It felt like stepping into the dark mouth of a monster. The streets of her quiet suburb, once a haven, looked sinisterly unfamiliar in the weight of the night. A sinking dread settled in her stomach as she navigated the familiar turns, heart racing under the weight of her fear. Her thoughts drifted to Mia, her 12-year-old daughter home alone. The lurking shadows seemed to echo her frightful memories of the past, which crept back uninvited. As she drove, the silence was heavy, punctuated only by the thrum of her pulse. Suddenly, her phone buzzed with a ride request that made her flinch. A man climbed into the back seat, his dark silhouette almost melding into the night's embrace. "Sarah," he said, and her blood went cold. He spoke her name like it was a ghost haunting her. No one knew her name, not out loud like that except him. A wave of nausea hit her as he casually mentioned her late husband, words spilling from his lips like venom. Her grip tightened on the steering wheel, knuckles white. This was no ordinary passenger. "You should have listened to your mother," he warned, his voice dripped with malice. The mention of family tragedy sent a shiver down her spine, reminding her of the car accident that shattered their lives, the accident she desperately tried to heal from. Each mile felt like a tether to her fears, each turn spiraling deeper into a creeping horror that consumed her thoughts. But it was the texts that followed that drove her to the edge. The anonymous messages began innocently enough, a simple, "How was your day?" But they quickly spiraled. They were deeply unsettling, detailing her daily life and Mia's routines with sickening accuracy. The safety of her little home crumbled, turning her familiar neighborhood into a warped maze of untrustworthy smiles and lurking dangers. Desperation clawed at her throat when the police brushed aside her fears as paranoia. Their eyes held no empathy, only indifference, leaving her feeling more isolated. Days turned into nights full of anxiety, and the whispers she encountered came crashing into her reality. Seeking clues led her to the dark corners of her community, where innocent-seeming neighbors transformed into suspects, each familiar glance now laden with suspicion. A smile became a shield for accusations beneath, blurring the lines of trust that had always existed. Who among them would toy with lives the way hers was being toyed with? Just as she thought she might find a lead, her phone lit up with one last chilling text late one night, freezing her blood. "I'm closer than you think. Tonight, I'll take something dear to you." Cold sweat dripped down her back as awareness dawned. The fight was no longer abstract, it was real, impending, and terrifyingly close. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With every fiber of her being screaming for survival, Sarah suddenly realized the shadows were not just a backdrop, they were living, breathing threats rising against her. In her haunted sanctuary, she felt the icy grip of dread tighten around her heart. She had to choose between a life of constant vigilance or risking everything to uncover the hidden predator stalking her and Mia before it was too late. Who was waiting for her next move? A face she thought she knew might be the last she ever saw. The air was thick and suffocating as Sarah pulled into her driveway, the headlights casting eerie shadows long against the house. Her heart still raced, the dark figure in the back seat of her Uber lingering in her mind like a ghost whispering promises of pain. How was this happening? Everything had felt so normal just days ago. The sway of the trees outside her home turned monstrous in her imagination, branches reaching like gnarled fingers clawing for her. For MIA. As she exited the car, the noise of the engine cut off abruptly, leaving her in an unsettling silence. The wind rustled through the leaves, sounding like furtive conversations, like secrets shared in the dead of night. She fumbled with her keys, hands shaking, the metal feeling foreign and cold against her skin. Each step toward the door felt like a countdown, a foreboding crescendo growing louder in her ears. Just as she turned the knob, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She gasped, instinctively looking over her shoulder. Think fast, she had told herself, a mantra to combat the fears that dogged her. But when she glanced at the screen, her breath hitched. Another message, this time a photo of Mia, safe and sound on the couch, tucked under a blanket. Panic surged through her as she bolted inside. She needed to get to her daughter, but the image was like a chilling reminder of how close the threat was. Each picture was a jagged wound in her heart, proof that someone was watching, waiting. The home she once trusted now felt like a prison. She rushed to the living room, nearly stumbling over her own feet, only to find Mia asleep, a gentle rise and fall of her chest offering some semblance of peace, but that peace was short-lived. Sarah's phone buzzed yet again. She hesitated, heart pounding like a war drum in her ears. The message read, "Sweet dreams, Mia. I'll be watching." Instinct kicked in. She quickly locked the front door and then the back, barricading herself in. A wave of nausea rolled through her, paired with a terrible knowledge that she was no longer in control. Who was this man, and how could he get so close? In a dizzy spiral of thoughts, Sarah thought back to the conversations she had heard. The whispers were everywhere, people exchanging words laden with judgment and suspicion about her family. She hadn't wanted to believe anyone could be capable of this, of such cold and calculated malice, but it was becoming clear, whoever this was felt personal. It went deeper than simple stalking. It was revenge. Racing to find her laptop, she hoped to discover anything that might shed light on the tormentor in her life. As she immersed herself in research, her mind was a storm, pulsing with fear and anxiety. The walls of her home felt like they were closing in. Suddenly, her screen flickered, illuminating the room in a harsh glow as the darkness outside grew thicker. Notifications poured in, but one set her heart racing, a series of long-forgotten memories captured in grainy photos, her husband's old contacts, faces of the past, family friends who had slipped into obscurity after the accident. What did they have to do with anything? Then one name caught her eye: James. A face she hadn't thought of in years, but something stirred in her gut. As she clicked on the link, the blood drained from her face. It was a newspaper clipping, a story she had buried deep within her mind, a man with a history of obsession, tied to tragedy and her husband's past. Realization crashed over her like a tidal wave. Could he have bounced back from his demons? Did he seek retribution, coming for Mia to hurt her? A sudden noise broke the flow of her thoughts, a light tap against the window that made her heart jump into her throat. With a surge of adrenaline, she rushed toward the sound, praying she wouldn't see what she feared most. Breathless, she pulled back the curtain only to freeze. Someone was outside, a figure obscured by the darkness. And he was smiling. Just when she thought she might have some respite, a chilling realization grounded her: the game had only just begun. What did they want from her? And who else would they hurt before the night was over? The figure outside slipped further into the light, revealing a face that made Sarah's blood run cold. It was James, the shadow from her past, eyes glistening with a manic kind of joy that sent chills racing down her spine. Her instincts screamed at her to hide, to run, but her feet felt glued to the floor. Sarah, his voice was smooth, almost soothing. It's been too long since we've seen each other. Every muscle in her body tensed. What do you want? She managed to choke out, the word stumbling from her lips like thickened molasses. Want? He echoed, a grin spreading wider. Oh, I want to see you again. To rekindle old memories. Memories, each one was like a shard of glass embedded in her heart. The warmth of family gatherings, the laughter that once filled their home, all tainted by the ferocity of the man who now stood outside her window, peering in like a wolf watching prey. Just let me in, Sarah. His tone shifted, dangerously persuasive. We have so much to discuss. You, me, Mia. He paused, letting the name linger in the air like a dark cloud. I only want what's best for her. The thought twisted inside her daughter unknowing, blissfully asleep just steps away. You're sick. She shouted, the words tearing from her lungs. Oh, they said that, you know. He replied, his eyes narrowing into slits. That I was sick. But was I? Or was I simply misunderstood? You've always been too quick to judge. Sarah felt a flood of anger rise. She wanted to hurt him, to unleash her fear, but she knew she couldn't show weakness. You need to leave. This isn't a game. Oh, but it is. He leaned closer to the glass, and she instinctively stepped back as if his breath could freeze the air. And it's about to get so much more interesting. Just then, a small voice pierced the tension. Mom? Who's that? Mia stood in the hallway, rubbing her sleepy eyes, oblivious to the danger. Time stood still as Sarah's heart raced, the reality crashing down on her. She had to protect her child. Get back in your room, sweetheart. Sarah yelled, panic flooding her voice. James straightened, his smile melting into a mask of feigned concern. Sweet Mia, why don't you come say hello to your uncle? Not a chance. Sarah spat, grounding herself. They've kept you away for too long, he said as his gaze flicked between mother and daughter. Trust me, you don't need to be afraid. Here, let me show you. The tapping at the window returned, but this time it was joined by a chorus of soft murmurs outside, more figures appearing, cloaked in shadows. Sarah's breath quickened. Where had they all come from? Were they part of his twisted game? No. She shrieked, backing away, instinct driving her to grab Mia and pull her close. Get away from my family. Oh, but that's not so easy. James's voice was laced with a cruel delight. You see, this isn't just about you anymore. In a heartbeat, the calm veil between them shattered, chaos swirling as muffled sounds of laughter echoed from the darkness. Fear spiraled through her mind. What did they want? She breached the threshold of her sanity, realizing the stark truth, they were never going to let her go. Whatever boundaries she thought she could set, James and his followers had already breached. As her phone buzzed again, this time it felt like an impending warning. Sarah looked down to see another message lighting the screen, a sinister photo of Mia's school with a note beneath it, "We'll find you. Just wait." The room spun, shadows stretching, and all hope began to sink like a stone. Sarah's hands trembled, fear eclipsing her senses. She had to act. Time was running out. Instinct kicked in, and she shoved her phone in her pocket. Taking a deep breath, she made a split-second decision that could either save them or doom them both. As the hammering at the door began, she felt the weight of 1,000 eyes watching, whispering secrets of terror. Stay close to me, she whispered fiercely to Mia. We're getting out of here. But the moment she turned toward the back door, she froze. A wall of darkness blocked her exit, and a voice, or was it a chorus, echoed through the stillness. You can't escape, Sarah. This is just the beginning. How had things spiraled so far? And what other horrors lay in wait beyond the door? The darkness loomed, suffocating and relentless. Every instinct screamed at Sarah to find a way out, to save Mia from the tightening grip of whatever had come for them. But the shadows around her pulsed and breathed, moving as if they had a life of their own. Mom? Mia whispered, her small voice breaking through the veil of fear. She clutched Sarah's hand, her eyes wide with innocent confusion, unaware of the rapidly approaching danger. Just stay close, Sarah replied, her voice steadying despite the dread pooling in her stomach. The noises outside escalated. A cacophony of whispers turned into laughter, a dark symphony that sent chills peeling down her spine. She glanced back at James, the smile still plastered across his face, a mask of insanity shimmering at the edges. You can't keep her from me, Sarah. It's been too long. She deserves to know her true family. With a sudden surge of adrenaline, Sarah yanked Mia behind her, placing herself between her daughter and the encroaching nightmare. Those eyes of his, wide and shining, morphed into something grotesque, as if the reality of their reunion had twisted him into a mockery of the brother she once loved. The front door shuddered, the sound a loud thud echoed through the house, making Mia jump. "Mom, what's happening?" "Shh. Listen to me," Sarah hissed. She scanned the room, her heart hammering as she searched for any escape. The back door offered no chance, shadows stretched toward it, crowding the edges of her vision. From outside, a voice slithered through the air. "Let us in, Sarah. We just want to talk. And Mia, she'll be safe with us." Safe? The word tasted bitter on her tongue. "You think you can keep her safe?" "Mia deserves to know her real father," James interjected, almost mockingly. "Don't you want her to know the truth?" "Shut up," Sarah shouted, brandishing her phone like a weapon. "This isn't your family anymore." The laughter only grew in volume, the shadows shifting closer. She had to act, and fast. The walls felt like they were closing in, pulsing with the sound of clawed hands scratching against it. "Take my hand, Mia," Sarah said, kneeling to her daughter's level. "We're going to run, but you have to trust me." Mia nodded slowly, her gaze flicking nervously to the window where dark figures loomed, their shapes warping in the gloom. Then something shattered within her, a bone-chilling thought. What if this wasn't just a game for James? What if these people outside weren't merely followers but were part of a far deeper, sinister plan? Without warning, the front door gave way. It swung open, revealing not just James but a throng of figures, all with eyes glowing in the dim light, hungry, expecting. "Join us, Sarah," James beckoned, his voice seductive yet filled with malice. "You can't protect her from what destiny has in store." Both Sarah and Mia stood frozen, the enormity of danger looming before them. Reality felt warped, their escape slipping through their fingers like grains of sand. As the specters surged forward, Sarah's instincts kicked in. "Run!" she screamed, and they bolted toward the back door, but the shadows unfurled like liquid smoke, forming an impenetrable barrier. "Mom!" Mia cried, panic sparking in her eyes. Just as they reached the door, a shriek pierced through the evening air, a sound so shrill it made the hairs on Sarah's neck stand. It was the unmistakable sound of an animal trapped, hunted. In that moment of distraction, something brushed against Sarah's ankle, cold and smooth. She stumbled backward, her heart racing as a small shadow crept toward them, thrusting a tattered note into her hand. "Remember, secret family," a voice whispered, far too close. As the shadows pressed in, reality lost its grip. Sarah's eyes flickered to the note, terror bubbling as she deciphered the message. What had she forgotten? "Mom, we need to go now," Mia shrieked, torn between her mother's grip and the horror around them. She clutched the note tighter, reading it over and over while the world blurred around her. The laughter peaked, echoing in a maddening chorus that twisted into a single question: "Can you outrun your past, Sarah?" The ground beneath their feet shifted, and the door violently slammed shut as the shadows loomed again, ready to engulf them. With desperation carving her path, Sarah pushed against the veiling darkness, her mind racing. The answer remained just out of reach, shrouded in the mystery of her own history. What truth waited within the shadows? And how deep did James' influence stretch? The darkness was hungry, and the night was far from over. Tension crackled in the air, a feeling like the calm before a thunderstorm. Sarah's fingers trembled around the note, and a bead of sweat trickled down her temple. The shadows pulsed impatiently, feeding off her fear, and the laughter outside crescendoed dangerously close. "Mia, we have to go, we have to." Sarah's words tumbled out in desperate gasps. Turning, she could see the swirling darkness darting near her feet, trying to wrap around her ankles like icy fingers. "Mom?" Mia's voice quivered. I don't know what to do," Sarah shouted defiantly into the darkness. She felt like a cornered animal, heart thudding madly against her ribs, instinct screaming to flee. The shadows drew nearer, the figures outside shifting and contorting in unnatural angles, eyes glinting with unholy hunger. Sarah James's voice floated through the thick air again, a predatory whisper. You can't shield her forever. You are just delaying the inevitable. An overwhelming surge of rage cleaved through Sarah. The realization hit her hard, this wasn't about her anymore. This was about Mia. No way was she going to let him take her. Shut up. I will protect my daughter at any cost. A sudden sense of purpose coursed through her, silencing the screams of despair in her heart. Listen to me, Mia. She turned to her daughter, a fierce determination shining in her eyes. We're going to fight this together. But as she attempted to push back the terror creeping ever closer, the shadows enveloped the house, drawing them into a smothering grip. Panic swelled within her, spiraling like a tornado. The back door shuddered violently, rattling against the frame as if something powerful was trying to get in. Mom, I'm scared. Mia whimpered, her small fingers clutching Sarah's shirt. I know, baby, I know. Sarah kissed the top of Mia's head, a brief moment of solace before she glanced back at the dining room. It was bathed in an almost sinister light that flickered and shifted, as if the shadows had their own dueling side. Something was off, the air felt charged, and she could almost taste the impending doom as a metallic tang curled at the back of her throat. Look! Mia squeaked, pointing toward the blackened recesses beneath the table, where more notes lay discarded, hidden from sight. There's more. Not now, Mia. Sarah urged, the very fabric of reality pulling around them as if trying to crush her. It was now or never. They had to make their move while they could still breathe. With a wild glance back toward the front door, Sarah's instincts kicked in. A surge of adrenaline washed over her as she gripped Mia's small hand. We're going through the basement. Follow me. They darted into the dark hallway, creeping hesitant steps toward the door at the end. It felt like walking into the jaws of a beast, the very shadows dancing around them, mocking their every move. As they reached the door, an ear-piercing wail erupted from outside, rattling the glass in its frame. Let us in. We just want to help. Echoed James, his tone now pleading yet laced with a manic edge. Sarah's heart raced, she grasped the doorknob with sweaty palms, twisting it until it clicked. The door creaked open, revealing a staircase spiraling down into utter darkness. Mom, what if they follow us? Mia trembled, her voice barely a whisper. Then we'll run faster. Sarah took a deep breath, pushing Mia ahead of her. They stepped down slowly, heartbeats echoing in the silence. But as they descended, the shadows gathered above, ready to strike. The air grew colder, the decay of old wood filling their nostrils. Suddenly, a voice erupted from the depths, low and resonating, "You can never escape your blood, Sarah." A freezing sensation shot through both of them. The words coiled around Sarah's heart like a vice, squeezing until she couldn't breathe. She turned back, realization dawning upon her. You'll always be one of us. What truth was yet to reveal itself? And could Sarah truly outpace her lineage? The darkness below stirred, restless and waiting. The stairs creaked beneath their feet, a mournful groan that echoed into the emptiness below. Each step felt heavier, laden with the weight of dread. Sarah felt the cold seep into her bones, crawling up from the damp earth, pulling like an unseen hand trying to drag them down into the abyss. Shadows lurked at the edges of her sight, flickering and swaying as if alive, laughing at their panic. Mom, it feels like we're being watched, Mia whispered, eyes wide, reflecting fear back at Sarah like two small mirrors. The reality of her words pierced through the growing darkness. What if they truly were not alone down here? Sarah clutched her daughter's hand tighter, feeling the tiny fingers shiver. Keep moving, sweetheart. We have to find a way out. The urgency in her voice was only partially a lie. She had no idea where they were headed, nor how deep this oppressive pit went. As they descended, the narrow hall opened into an expansive space, a basement, but not of a home. Cracked stone walls surrounded them, dimly lit by a sickly green glow that seemed to emanate from the very ground. In the center of the room stood a sacrifice altar, aged, with remnants of past offerings still mired in the dark. Dried blood marred the stone, dust thickly coating the edges, whispering secrets of what horrors had come before. Mia flinched. "Mom, I don't like this place." She pointed toward a rusted chain hanging from the wall, the remnants of a long-abandoned restraint. A shudder ran through Sarah, heart racing. The shadows are hungry, she thought, frantically scanning for an escape. Just then, a rustling noise broke the chilling silence, sending chills running down their spines. Sarah turned sharply, expecting to see James or another figure lurking, but instead, it was worse. Out of the walls seemed to ooze the darkness like a living creature, tendril-like shadows writhing and twisting, hungry manifestations of their fear. "Mia, come here." Sarah pulled her daughter close, backing away from the encroaching mass. "We need to keep moving." The shadows pulsed, almost vibrating with malevolence as if drawn to their fear. Sarah could hear distant echoes of James's voice, twisted and mocking now. "There's nowhere left to run, Sarah, your choices were made long ago." The chilling familiarity crept back in, each syllable dripping with malice. It clawed at her sanity, demanding to be acknowledged. She grasped tighter onto Mia's wrist, instinctively guiding her through the dim cavern, though every instinct told her to scream, to run, to hide. They didn't hear it at first, but soon became aware of faint whispers weaving through the air, growing louder the further they ventured. "Join us, Sarah, you belong to us." The chorus of voices swelled, layering over one another in sinister harmony, and the shadows rejoiced, churning closer. "Emom!" Mia screamed, pulling back as she stumbled on the uneven floor. "Keep moving!" Sarah roared, fear morphing into rage. She had no intention of letting them take her daughter. She was tired of running. They reached the wall, and she quickly began to search for a way out, her fingers brushing against the cold stone, desperate for any sign of hope. Out of nowhere, a crack split open in the wall, glowing with an eerie light, almost like a beckoning hand. "Help us," it whispered, seductive yet petrifying. Sarah hesitated, her instincts clawing to bolt back into the safety of shadows. But she knew one thing: she had to make a choice. Was this an escape? A lifeline? Or another trap, woven into the very fabric of her cursed bloodline? The shadows loomed larger, closing in like a noose tightening around her inescapable fate. "Mom, please!" Mia's cry broke through her thoughts, grounding her in the terrifying moment. "Do we take the chance?" Suddenly, the sounds above stopped, an ominous silence fell heavy, as though the outside world was holding its breath. Whatever was lurking in the dark didn't want her to escape, but could this crack hold the key to freedom, or would it drag them into the abyss, sealing their fate forever, with a final, defiant breath? Sarah made her choice, and as they stepped toward the crack, the shadows screamed. What awaited them on the other side? A new horror or long-lost answers? The darkness shifted, and they jumped into the unknown. The world around them twisted, the crack swallowing them whole. The air shimmered, pulsing with a strange energy that felt both electric and suffocating. Sarah clutched Mia tightly, the warmth of her daughter's small frame grounding her in the chaos. With a sudden, jarring snap, they landed on cold, hard ground. Gasping, Sarah looked around, momentarily blinded by an explosion of white light. As her vision adjusted, an overwhelming sense of confusion washed over her. They were no longer in the sinister basement. Instead, they stood in a vast, desolate expanse, an endless gray wasteland under a bruised sky. "Where are we?" Mia whimpered, her voice trembling, looking around as if expecting something ominous to jump out. "Stay close," Sarah whispered fiercely, scanning their surroundings. Shadows twisted at the edges, lurking just beyond the light as if they were now the hunted. A figure emerged suddenly from the haze, tall and cloaked, indistinct features hidden beneath a heavy hood. Sarah's heart raced, the figure exuding an aura of dread. "Welcome," it rasped, voice slithering into the air like smoke. It lifted a skeletal finger, pointing toward the far horizon where darkness churned violently. "What do you want?" Sarah's voice trembled, heart pounding like a drum. The figure swayed slightly, its movements unnaturally fluid. "Everything has a price, Sarah. The darkness hungers, and it feeds on fear and blood." Mia gasped, and Sarah shielded her daughter protectively. She opened her mouth to respond, but the figure didn't wait. It wheeled away, gliding toward the horizon, leaving a trail of shadows that twisted and coiled around them like tendrils. "Mama," Mia whimpered, her small hand trembling in Sarah's grip. "We'll find a way out," Sarah vowed, though every fiber of her being was twisting in doubt. The previous horrors felt like a dream compared to the foreboding atmosphere surrounding them. Suddenly, a cacophonous roar erupted from behind them, sending a visceral shiver up Sarah's spine. She turned just in time to see a monstrous wave of darkness surging toward them, its form rushing with all the fury of a living beast. "Run!" she shouted, pulling Mia along as they fled across the barren wasteland. Each step was like running through thick mud, the ground seeming to pull them back toward the shadows. The creature of darkness loomed closer, a mass of snarling faces and gnashing teeth that glinted with malevolence. Sarah dared one last glance back, seeing the ghastly features morphing in and out of sight, devouring the light as it chased them relentlessly. In the distance, a flicker caught her eye, an old, crumbling building, half buried in the murky haze. "There!" she shouted, pointing through the panic as they sprinted towards it. The entrance gaped open, dark and inviting yet drenched in danger. They dove inside just before the darkness could swallow them whole. Inside, the air was stifling, laced with the stale scent of fear. Shadows clung to the walls like stains, and the walls echoed faint whispers that made Sarah's skin crawl. "We're safe for now," Sarah gasped, trying to catch her breath as they pressed against the wall, hearts racing, but deep down she knew this was only a temporary refuge. "I want to go home," Mia sobbed, tears glimmering like glass in her terrified eyes. "I know, baby. I know," but the building shuddered ominously around them, and the whispers crescendoed, crying out, join us," each word dripped like poison into Sarah's mind, taunting her with the weight of dread. Then, from the dark recesses, a figure stepped forward, cloaked in shadow. The voice echoed, chilling her to the bone. "Your past has never left you, Sarah. It follows you still." Sarah stiffened, panic clenching her stomach. What could it mean? Her heart raced as she tried to hold on to the threads of hope. The past? What had she done that her daughter might pay for? As the figure moved closer, reality blurred at the edges and uncertainty clawed at her sanity. Dread pulsed through the air like a heartbeat. What awaited them in the depths of this haunted place? They needed answers. But at what cost? The figure stepped closer, its shadow sprawling across the ground like a dark omen. Sarah could barely make out its features, but the energy radiating from it felt ancient and unforgiving. Each heartbeat echoed in her ears, drowning out the whispers that begged her to submit. "Who are you?" Sarah managed, her voice quaking. She tightened her grip on Mia, who shivered at the growing presence. "I am a keeper of your truth," the figure hissed, moving with an eerie grace. "The past will consume you both, if you let it." The shadows in the room danced as if alive, creeping toward them, eager to be acknowledged. Mia shrank against her mother, her wide eyes reflecting nothing but fear. What do you want with us?" Sarah's voice broke as the weight of her question settled on her chest like lead. "Answers cannot be given without sacrifice," the figure whispered, letting each word hang heavy in the air. "You have drawn the darkness. There are debts to be paid." Debts. The word sat like a stone in Sarah's throat. Mia whimpered again, the sound a raw plea for reassurance. "Mommy, I don't like this place." More tears spilled down Mia's cheeks, each drop amplifying the chilling sensation wrapping around Sarah's heart. Neither do I, but we need to stay strong, Sarah murmured, though she felt her resolve shatter with every passing second. The corners of the room seemed to stretch into nothingness, shadows crossing the thresholds of her vision. A feeling of vertigo pressed down on her, pulling her deeper into dark recesses of her memory. A rush of guilt hit her with a torrent of forgotten snapshots, a broken promise, a loved one lost. What had she done? What had she hidden? Your truth awaits you, the Shadow Keeper said, drawing closer, its presence suffocating. It is time to confront what you have denied. The walls trembled, reverberating with the whispers, each syllable a coaxing reminder of things Sarah had long buried. In an instant, flickers of memory flashed before her eyes, an argument, a scream, and then an eerie silence enveloping a small, dark room, someone's face twisted in pain. Mama. Mia's tiny hand tugged at her shirt, pulling her back to the present. Don't let it take you. Sarah gasped, the scream of her daughter snapping her to reality. She glanced back at the figure, which now hovered ominously, its form shifting in a swirling mass of darkness. I will save you, Sarah promised, her heart racing. I can't lose you. Not like this. Not again. Then be prepared to face it all, child, the figure whispered, for the darkness is relentless. It will not cease until it has what it wants. Sarah gasped again, feeling the very air around them grow charged with energy. The walls shook, and the floor beneath them cracked, sending splinters of dread shooting through her. Corrupt images flashed through her mind again, the faces of lost friends swimming in the void, accusing her with lifeless eyes. Mama! Mia yelled again. It's coming. A rumble echoed through the space, and the air thickened. At that moment, the shadows morphed, boiling around them, pulsating with malice. Sarah felt the pressure of memory washing over her, threatening to drown her in her own fears. No! She screamed, a primal plea. I want to let you take me. The figure paused, its hollow gaze piercing through the veil of fears. Your strength will determine who survives. Will you betray your past, or will it devour you whole? A roar surged from within the depths of the building, the ominous sound reverberated. The shadows shifted threateningly, and the walls seemed to close in. Breathing heavily, Sarah had to decide. Would she confront her past or risk it all to save Mia? Then, suddenly, from behind a crumbling wall, an entrance flickered to life, a pulse of eerie light radiating from it. Just as swiftly, a chilling laugh echoed, sending an icy tremor through Sarah's bones. Choose wisely, for time is short. In that moment, both terror and hope clashed, questions rushing through Sarah's mind. Where would that path lead? Was it freedom or another trap? With the darkness closing in, she grabbed her daughter's hand tightly. We have to go, Mia. Now. As they rushed toward the light, Sarah's heart hammered in her chest. Would they walk into salvation or a deeper nightmare? Mommy! Wait! Mia screamed, her voice a threat of desperation ringing in the chaos. Could they escape what awaited them? Or would they be ensnared in the shadows that hunted them? With every step, the darkness pursued, and a terrible realization settled in Sarah's mind. Even if they ran now, the past would always be lurking just behind them. As they burst toward the light, it enveloped them in a blinding glow. Sarah shielded her eyes, squinting to see what lay ahead. The air, thick with the scent of damp earth, was a stark contrast to the stale dread they'd just escaped. It was cool, almost refreshing. But instead of safety, a sense of foreboding loomed ominously around the corner. Mama, I can't see. Mia cried, still gripping her hand tightly. Panic danced at the edges of Sarah's heart, coloring the light a sickly shade of uncertainty. She could feel it, the weight of anticipation, the promise of something darker lurking just beyond the flickering sanctuary. Stay close, sweetheart. She urged, though her own voice trembled. The glow pulled back, revealing a narrow passage that twisted like a serpent, its walls slick and glistening. Sarah took a hesitant step into the passage, her pulse racing with every moment they lingered. She felt the darkness reach for them, fingers of shadow slipping short of her heels. Each step echoed eerily, a reminder of the threats receding but never too far behind. For every bit of light, the shadows felt more vibrant, hungry. What if it's a trap? Mia whispered, her small voice breaking through Sarah's thoughts. Fear reflected in her young eyes, wide as saucers. Sarah knelt down, forcing her smile to reach her eyes. "We'll be all right. Just stick with me." But inside, uncertainty knotted into her gut. What truth awaited them on this twisted journey? Suddenly, a cold breeze swept down the tunnel, whipping through their hair and sending a chill up Sarah's spine. It felt alive, like fingers tingling across her skin, brandishing its threats. "Mama, I feel something bad." Sarah's heart raced. She glanced back toward the entrance. The pierced shadows hung there, slithering, beckoning her. The figure, that ominous keeper of truth, pulsed like a heartbeat in her mind. Would they truly be safe in the light, or was it just a temporary reprieve? Another facade like the countless lies she told herself? "Keep moving," she urged, pulling her daughter forward. They trudged further, shrouded in uncertainty, when the ground beneath them shuddered. With a deafening roar, the walls of the passage trembled violently, the darkness seeping in, clawing its way toward them. Groans of the building filled the air, creating a cacophony of dread. "The darkness isn't gone," Mia screamed, pure fear breaking her voice. As if summoned by the girl's distress, shadows materialized from the walls, spiraling into vague forms that coiled menacingly. Each pulse of darkness looked like familiarity wrapped in malice. Wasn't that the face of someone she once loved? The darkness now wearing a mask of vengeance. "Mia, hold on to me." Each syllable felt like a lifeline, as Sarah felt the weight of her past pressing hard against her mind. "No. Mommy. Get away. It's not real." Mia's cry fell into the chaos, desperately grasping at Sarah's sleeve. But Sarah began to understand. The shadows showed her truths she had tried to ignore. Tremors of revelation clawed at her heart. The secrets each buried tear, every oppression rose to the surface, shoving her to face the shattered fragments of her past. "Mama." Mia pulled harder, wrenching Sarah from her thoughts. "Run." They raced deeper into the tunnel, but each step felt heavier. Was it the weight of the memories or the shadows that burdened her? Suddenly, they reached a crossroads. 3 passages loomed, each one shrouded in darkness, each whispering ancient promises and threats alike. "No." Sarah gasped, overwhelmed. "Mia, we have to choose." Thick shadows curled around the openings, their whispers growing intense, sinister with intent. Each hidden path seemed to pulse with secrets longing to spill forth, a trial of their resilience. "Mama, I don't want to choose." Mia cried, panic rising in her voice, her grasp slipping. As the darkness swelled, shadows whispered secrets, they offered glimpses of past traumas, light fleeting against overwhelming despair. "Mia, we have to trust ourselves." Sarah's heart raced as she gripped her daughter tighter, grounded by the only love she couldn't betray. She could feel it closing in, a crescendo of terror looming. They couldn't escape, couldn't hide from the truth, not now. "Mommy, I'm scared." Breath quickening, Sarah's eyes darted among the choices. Time slipped, pressing her to act. Which one, Mia? Which way? With that question hanging in the air, the ground shook even more violently, shattering the crucial moments of indecision. And then, from the depths of the middle passage, a voice, a familiar, chilling echo drifted through the chaos. "Come to me, Sarah. I have been waiting." Mia clutched Sarah tightly. "Don't listen. We have to go. Don't let it take you." But the choice hung heavy in the air, darker than the shadows surrounding them. Time worked against them, and a terrifying thought struck Sarah. What if the only way out was to embrace the darkness, would she dare to face the figure she had fought to forget? Or would it consume them both in the shadows of her past? As Sarah stood in the choking dark, memories clawed at her. They whispered secrets long held, reluctance threading through her heart. She felt Mia's tiny heartbeat echoing fiercely against her own, a reminder of why she had to fight. They had to escape, but at what cost? Suddenly, the ground quaked again beneath them, and shadows writhed like angry serpents. The haunting voice called to her fears, to her guilt, to the mistakes she had tried so hard to bury. Panic surged in her veins as she realized the choice before them, to confront the specter of her past or remain trapped in the darkness forever. "Mommy." Mia's voice cracked, desperation lacing her every word. "Please, don't let it take you." As time pressed closer, Sarah forced her eyes shut, shoving against the torrent of fears threatening to drown her. Juxtaposed against the echo of James' taunting laughter from the darkness loomed the love of her daughter, the one thing she would never relinquish. With a fierce resolve kindling in her chest, she opened her eyes, the weight of her daughter's small hand squeezing hers, grounding her. "We don't run," she whispered, a new determination shaping her voice. "We stand and fight." Gripping Mia's hand tighter, she led them toward the middle passage, not out of submission but bravely marching forward. The shadows writhed in protest. "Remember the truth, Sarah. You can't escape," they shrieked, voices swirling around them like frigid winds. "Watch me," she shouted back defiantly, breaking through the oppressive whispers. As they stepped into the lightless corridor, an overwhelming sensation coursed through her. It wrapped around her like chains, ghostly images flickering in and out of view, grief-stricken faces taunted with memories of joy turned rancid. Each moment splintered felt like a dagger in her heart, the price of forgetting had come to collect. At the end of the corridor loomed a figure, its form shrouded in darkness, framed by flickering light. "Sarah," it hissed, voice wrapping around her like cool silk, pulling her into familiar shadows. "Come back. You can still join me." Her heart raced. This was not the time for hesitation. "I'm not going anywhere with you," Sarah shouted, stepping forward, a volcano of defiance erupting inside her. Lightning cracked through the void, illuminating the figure's face. It was James, twisted by darkness, but still somehow resembling the brother she once loved. "Face it. You are just like us. Your blood ties you to this legacy." "No," she cried, refusing to be drawn in. She could see Mia behind her, eyes wide with both fear and hope, and it anchored her. "I won't let you hurt her. I am her family," he spat back, a grotesque smirk stretching across his ghostly face. "And you're afraid to accept the truth of who you really are." A blinding flash pulsed in her heart. It was then she remembered the note, an ancestral burden, a history she denied. Heart racing, she recalled the family secrets woven behind closed doors. The light washed over her, igniting something she never wanted to embrace, truth of her past mingling with the wisdom of defiance. "No more secrets," she shouted, raising her voice higher than ever. "I am not you, James. You chose the darkness. I choose my daughter." As her declaration rang through the shadows, a fissure opened in the darkness, an eerie glow spilling through. It was a path tearing open as if the very fabric of reality protested against her refusal. James' laughter shrieked like a banshee, "You cannot defy your heritage." But Sarah pressed on, tugging Mia along with her. "We'll take our fate back." And with each step, the shadows shrieked, and the walls trembled, as they sprinted down the newly opened path, escaping into the flickering light. Finally, they burst into a vast meadow bathed in golden sunlight, warmth flooding over them. Sarah dropped to her knees, panting, tears streaming down her cheeks, mingling with the scented flowers beneath them. What had they done? Had they truly escaped? "Mama, are we safe?" Mia's voice trembled beside her. "Yes, baby, we made it," Sarah gasped, wrapping her arms around Mia, feeling the purity of her daughter's breath, life, hope, resilience. Slowly, she stood, holding her daughter close, but the shadows lingered at the edge of the meadow, murmuring far-off promises. The battle may have been won, but the scars of the past clung stubbornly. A determined fire ignited within Sarah as she looked into the horizon, knowing their journey was not over. They would face every lingering shadow together, and as they walked forward hand in hand, love surged brighter than the darkness, propelling them into the future, a place where truths could bloom, and where hope thrived. If this story gripped you, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to help feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories. What did you think of Sarah's choice? And don't even wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support, and only true fans understand the importance of taking these actions.